Wakey, wakey, eggs and bakey. Guys, there's a lot going on in the world. There's going to be a lot getting into today. Today, we're going to get into why you need to care about your money. And more specifically, we're going to make fun of some people, generally out in California, because they're a bunch of idiots. Okay. For those Californians watching, if you're not the blue hair type, fine, you're not an idiot, but you still need to get out of California. I understand the weather's fantastic. I get it, but your money's being wasted. So let's get into some stuff. So I'm sure y'all have heard about the big, the beautiful, the bloated, the Elon and Musk and Trump debacle, the fight between the titans of SWAT and the titans of I don't know baseball references. So let's get into it. The Congressional Budget Office, so they're kind of supposedly a nonpartisan group that determines whether something's positive or negative to the economy. They generally do a pretty good job about evaluating things. However, there's always a little bit of bias. In this case, there are some bias. They leave out some key facts that have been going around. I want to raise those and point those out right now. So yes, this bill is going to be doing a great job as far as helping the middle class. It is going to help pretty much everybody, hands down. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of news stories basically saying, oh, this is going to help the rich. Yeah, it's going to help the rich. If you reduce taxes by 10% for everyone, if somebody's making $1,000, then their tax bill gets reduced by 10, or their tax bill's $1,000, and they reduce that by 10%, they're saving $100, right? But let's say a rich dude's tax bill is $10,000. Guess what? He saves 10%. His is going to be $1,000. Now, is that fair? Yes, y'all. Both of your tax bills got reduced by 10%. Okay. Now, what you progressives are screaming about is like, oh no, he should be paying more. He is paying more. He's paying the majority of the tax bills. In fact, half of Americans get a net positive distribution for taxes. That means half of you guys aren't paying taxes. I'm sorry. That's the truth. You get net positive benefit. You don't want that. So the more people that realize they can pay themselves out of other people's money, the quicker we will move into a socialism type steamroll snowball aspect, to where essentially everybody who's in the majority vote themselves stuff from other people's pockets. That's why leftists love to be very giving with other people's money. So let's get into the bill, not get off on a tangent. We can do that on a deep dive. But for now, just showing right here that yes, the wealthy will receive a larger tax cut, but that's because they make more. That's how that works. However, it shows that more people in the middle class, the way this is formulated, will technically receive a larger percent of their tax bill reduced at the middle income bracket, which is fantastic. That's what you want to see. And you're seeing it right here. 75% of those earning $1 million more will see a tax cut. So that's great. Good for them. They're the ones that are creating the jobs and starting small businesses. Every one of us needs to get a side hustle. I know it's hard, guys. You see me trying to do something. It's all of us trying to do something in order to generate an income and generate additional revenue here in the country. And then you've got here 97% of those earning less than $15,000 a year, essentially those in poverty, will get a tax cut. In other words, they're going to get more money back. And then the 93% of the households get a decrease, tax decrease greater than $500, are earning between the $200,000 and $500,000. So basically, that's your upper middle class, lower upper class. I think that's upper middle class. Those guys are seeing the biggest tax chunk, but that's only, they're getting over $500 back. But believe me, they're paying a ridiculous amount in taxes. I think their tax bill is over 30% of their income. That's not the rest of us. In fact, we can look at that another day as far as how the tax bills are set up. But just note that the majority of us are paying itty amount as far as what's being paid, while the upper 10%, I think, are paying like 80% of all taxes. So good for them. It's going to help stimulate the economy, and that's all I care about. So just be in mind that if you see that, oh, this is helping the rich, that's just how percentages work. If you're making more and there's a percent decrease in the taxes, guess what? The people who make the most will see the biggest benefit. It's just, that's how the world works. Life's not fair. Whoever told you life is fair is a liar. Life is not fair. Get over it. So, another fantastic thing from the CBO is saying 11 million people, and I did say fantastic, will project to lose health insurance by 2034. And what they mean by health insurance, in other words, they will get off of Obamacare. That's a good thing. That's a good thing, but they're not happy about that. Why aren't they happy about that? Because as it turns out that 10% of the people that are going to be losing that are illegals. So they're feeding. Oh, wait, liberal. I thought you said they were net benefits. Oh, but they're feeding off the system. So they really aren't, are they? It's liar, pants on fire. So, yes, there will be 11 people losing healthcare coverage. But here's what's actually happening. Each year, they have to re-verify their income. Right now, they don't have to do that. Under the new administration and new protocols, they have to re-verify their income. So that way, as they're earning money, as they're moving up the ladder, guess what? They now realize that, oh, wait, you're out of poverty. You shouldn't qualify for benefits. You shouldn't be taking money out of other people's pockets. That's fair, guys. Liberals go cry in a corner. I saw your comments on the other ones where you're crying about crushing the rainbow. Yep, it's happened. It's happened. And it's going to get better. Because guess what, liberals? The number of signups reporting income between 100% and 150% of the federal poverty exceeding the number of potential enrollees. What does that mean? What are you talking about? What they're looking at, and these are generally blue states, is that people in the poverty level that are actually on Medicare, Medicaid, well, not Medicare, Medicaid, Obamacare, what has happened is that in those areas, you're generally seeing, if you're averaging that out, 125% more people. So generally, you're always seeing more people, almost double the amount of people that are supposedly in poverty in, let's say, California. There's double the amount of that. So if there's 20,000 people in poverty in California, you're seeing over double that on the Medicaid rolls. That shouldn't be possible. So if you have this amount of people that are in poverty that qualify for Medicaid, but then all of a sudden, if you look at the Medicaid enrollment numbers and it's double that, then guess what that means? People are lying on their income. That's fraud. That's what's been happening. That's where those 11 million people are going to be getting off of Medicaid, which is a good thing because they're lying and gaming the system. I know you liberals hate that. You hate it so bad, but guess what? It makes me happy because guess what? I shouldn't be having to be forced to pay for people who can buy health insurance on their own. If you don't like it, you go pay for it. And then this is fantastic as well because we need this. Reduce the federal deficit by at least $750 billion. That's how much waste is going on in Medicaid. $750 billion, guys. That's a lot of waste. Like, how do you get around that? Explain that to me. And even better, squashing and crapping on that rainbow and the ugly rainbow, not the good rainbow. Excluding gender transition treatment. Don't you love to see it? Don't you love to see it? Feels so good. I got a comment with something like, choke on your bigotry. Come on, you know what you're choking on. You know what you're choking on. Your tears are so sweet. Yeah, you liberals, you like that waste, don't you? Well, it gets better. It gets better. This is why you should hate to pay your taxes. Judge says Education Department remains barred from canceling COVID-19 school aid. When did COVID happen again? Half a decade ago. And yet, this random judge is saying we still have to pay out to schools. We still have to pay out. What are they using those COVID funds for? Buying masks? But I thought we were doing remote learning. I know those kids are going back to school now, but what are you going to do? Shove a mask on them? That, guess what? Even Fauci, your Lord and Savior Fauci has said masks don't work. But I still see liberals out there wearing your masks. I'm sorry. I'll try to say leftists, okay? Some of you liberals still have your soul. You leftists out there still wearing masks that do absolutely nothing. And they're the cloth masks, which just makes you laugh. I see them looking at me, smiling and laughing. Yes, I literally am walking down the grocery store, still seeing people wearing cloth masks, and I am laughing. And they're looking at me angry because they know what I'm laughing at. And I'll do it to you too, because it is funny. So yes, your waste is just this. The waste is all for show, and you got to be wondering yourself, what are they really doing with that money? What's really going on? Keep that in the back of your mind. Where's all this waste really going? So let's get into the California gold diggers. Man, some of those gold diggers are like hot, but this one does not. So I'm sure you guys have heard about high-speed rail, and California's been trying to build this high-speed rail system for quite a while. I had to look it up. I thought it was around like 10 years they've been trying to do this. It was longer than that. It was longer than 10 years. So right now, and this is great, so they've had to update their estimates on how much usership they're going to get. It's been dropping. It's been dropping quite significantly. In other words, California's own numbers, their own outlandish numbers for who's going to be using this high-speed rail has dropped by 25%. Dropped by 25% as far as utilization. And that's a key metric. Why? Because the more people that use it, the more it justifies the cost. And we're going to get into the cost because this is insane. Remember, where's the money going? All right, so this is where I had to look some of this stuff up. The project actually started, the high-speed rail, 2008. It was supposed to connect San Francisco to LA and cost $33 billion. You know, that's a lot of money, but, you know, that's a large, you know, that's a lot of track to lay high-speed rail. Sounds pretty sweet, you know. Now it's estimated to cost well over $120 billion. And you're thinking to yourself, okay, you know, it's gone up by 4 times. No, it's not. It has not gone up by 4 times. It's gone up by about 20 sometimes. You're like, how? What do you mean? What do you mean it's gone up 20? It's right there, 30 billion, 120 billion. You don't know your math too well. Oh, I math just fine. Because what they've done is instead of going what they were aiming for their track, they've reduced the amount of track that they're going to lay by over a factor of 8. Yeah. So right now, 14 billion have been spent with 0 track being laid. Ouch. So where is this money? What's going on here with this money? So right now, the US DOT is saying, look, this project is a boondoggle. It's pretty much a slush fund for Californians where you've got the elite there basically profiting off of this and doing absolutely nothing. I mean, supposedly 10% of the project's monies have been spent and literally no tracks have been laid. What are you doing with that? What are you doing with it? You can tell me. Come on, tell me. What are you doing with that money? And so what they're looking at is there's right now a $7 billion funding gap. So the US DOT, now they're actually doing something. Instead of Buttigieg is no longer in charge, you actually have people who are wondering what in the world is going on here and where's the money going. They're looking at it and realizing, wait a minute, you're saying you're going to have 25% fewer riderships. Aren't you guys losing people? You guys are losing people. So wait a minute. You're losing people and you have no idea where this money's going because you're essentially spending it into nowhere. We're not going to give you more money. These are other people. This ain't Californians' money. These are other people's money outside of California. People in Alaska aren't going to be using this rail and you're spending Alaska federal dollars. No, we're not going to be giving you more money. We don't know what you're doing with it. Makes sense, right? See, that's what I love. That's what I love about this is that leftists lose your mind when you start using logic. And when you use basic common sense, they lose their mind. So all you purple hell people, go ahead, start typing in the comments. Come on, make fun of me. I love it. Love it. Eat it up. So where is that money going? Oh yeah, I want to point this out. It started at 800-mile system. Then it got reduced to 500 miles. Then it's 171 miles. And now it's looking at about 120 miles. So they went from 800 to 120. What in the world? What in the world is going on? This is beautiful. I love to see it because it pretty much concludes everything we know, that the government is just a wasteful black hole of funds that just disappears. Again, where's it going? Where's the money going? So, how did we get here? Started with $33 billion, 800 miles of track. $41 million per track. Pretty expensive, but per mile of track for high-speed rail, that makes a little sense. I mean, you got to clear stuff out. You got to get the electricity in there. You got to get the diesel engines in there and everything else. You got to get, the construction workers, set them up, get the heavy equipment in there. Like, there's a lot of stuff to do. 41 million seems a bit high, but it is the government, so you got to do a factor of 4 or something. And then, okay, fine. But then they reduced it to 500 miles. Now 66 million per mile of track. Then they said, okay, well, now it's going to cost 90 billion. Well, now all of a sudden it jumps up to 178 million per mile of track. And then they reduced it down to 171 miles. That makes it $520 million per mile of track. And they said, oh, okay, it's going to cost 128 billion. Well, that makes it $748 million per mile of track. And now it is over $1 billion per mile of track. What are you doing with it? Where's that money going to go? $1 billion per mile of track. Make it make sense. Come on. So, getting back to the point, that's a 2,622% increase. That's a lot. That's a lot. Okay, so we got to pay for their gender study degrees too. So, thankfully, the Trump administration is like, wait a minute. You can't be giving free money to illegals. This has got to stop. You got to stop it. I know Obama was giving a bunch of free money out. We got to stop that right now. So under the Obama administration, under Dreamers, they're getting free tuition to basically go to Texas public universities, and that's going to stop. Now, the Texas state actually passed legislation to put this into effect, but thankfully the Trump administration, wait a minute. So out-of-state students don't get to benefit from this. So you're basically allowing people who have just jumped across the Rio Grande, and they're going to come in here and you're going to give them money out of the pockets of everybody else. No, not going to happen. Not fair. Not right. Not just. Not just for the millions of people who've been paying into the system for decades, and you basically jump over some water and you get in here and you essentially get money out of my pocket. No, I'm sorry. That ain't how it works. That is not how it works, and it is discriminatory. You're discriminatory against Americans who are here, who have been here, who were born here, who have worked here, whose families have been here and paid in the system for generations. That's who you're stealing from. Guess what? That's not racist, because you're assuming white, and I'm talking about blacks, Asians, Hispanics who have been here. Yep. Look, sorry, liberal. Blowing your head up again. I know. Make it make sense. That dichotomy in your head, it's glorious. So, getting back to the point, where's this money going? Some of you guys probably missed this. This was a little story that was unearthed by Project Veritas, and then the EPA administrator, Lee Zeldin, ran with it, and he is working to destroy it. And I just want to call this out. So before Trump got in, the moment Trump won back in November, the EPA was literally, quoting them, throwing gold bars off the Titanic. Titanic being the Biden, well, really the Biden administration that was going to be headed by a vapid woman, Kamala Harris, and they're just throwing money out at these NGOs. And what's perplexing, they threw out $20 billion, just threw it out there to these 8 entities. A lot of them had never dealt with this kind of money before, to get the money out of the federal government, so that way these NGOs controlled it. And that's the scheme. You take the money, you give it to these NGOs, non-government organizations, non-government entities, and they control it. These are your little pocket people, they're not quite lobbyists, but it's essentially how you're embezzling money out of the federal government and using it for your little Project Blue projects, where you're essentially funding these protests, you're funding discontent, and you're funding illegal immigration in the country with a lot of these NGOs. And that's where the money's been going. Where is the money? What have you guys done with it? You've wasted it. Instead of giving it to our veterans, giving it to our homeless, supporting children here. No, you guys have virtue signaled for no reason and thrown money out into a precipice to destroy the country. Make it make sense. So let's get away from the money bit and just, I really want to look at this. Some of you guys who have kids will understand this. Some of you guys who don't have kids, wait till you have kids, because you're not going to be able to make any sort of sense of coherence when you're trying to argue why this is wrong. So Florida passed a bill basically saying if you are under the age of 14, you have to have, you can't have social media. And if you're between essentially 14 and 18 or 14 and 16, you have to have your parents' permission to be on social media. Why is this important? Because there's tons of studies that link disciplinary problems, depression, angst, suicidality with social media. Children cannot process it. There's a lot of you people right now that are on social media that cannot handle it because it sucks you in, doom scrolling, and you just lose your mind and get sucked into it. Children are even worse. They cannot regulate it. So this is fantastic. And unfortunately, a district judge here, again, these district judges who are acting like the executive branch are basically saying, no, you can't do that. Well, on what ground? Because they can make decisions themselves. They're children. We don't allow them to drive. We drive them everywhere. We don't allow them to make decisions for themselves. I love this. Okay, here it is. Which he said empower parents to police their children's social media, but use a high legal bar for governments to limit people's access to social media. What? So you admit they are children and under their parents' control. Under the same token, well, it limits access for people. They're under their parents' control. Again, liberals, I love to see it. Their people can make their own decisions. They're under their parents' control. Make it make sense. You can't. Liberal judge. I don't even have to know who appointed him. I know immediately that this was entirely done by a liberal judge because you can't make logical sense of it. Again, if you're going to argue that, then why are there laws preventing minors from using smoking, tobacco, alcohol, and drugs? Because there are things that we know that parents should be doing that good parents don't always do or monitor or relegate over their children. And so, yeah, you need some sort of relegation there to say, hey, parents, come on, don't let your kids on this. It's bad. It's gonna harm them long term. Don't let them on social media. It's a great thing. This is fantastic. If you have kids, you're supporting this. If you don't have kids, you're an idiot. If you have kids and you're supporting this, God help you. Supporting this as in you're supporting the judge. All right, who's really pushing this? So guess who's funding and pushing and lobbying and wanting the children to be on social media? Oh, look, it's Meta, Google, and Snapchat. Color me surprised. Again, you've got parents on the other side, kleptocracy on the other. Come on, liberal. I thought you were against capitalists, these capitalist pigs. Well, liberal, guess what? You're on their side right now, not the parent side. Make it make sense. All right, we've done a lot of doom posting and whining about the government wasting money. Let's look at a little bit of good stuff today. So, again, pointing out earlier, if you haven't seen some of my first streams, go look at those. One of the big things Trump's been trying to do is lower oil prices. Why are we trying to lower oil prices? Because everything here in the U.S. runs on oil. Forget your lorries. We've got tractor trailers that can blow through a building. We run on oil. So in order to have the goods and services that we have at the cheap cost that we do, we have to have a great transportation network, which means that they gobble up oil. Guess what? If you lower oil, it's going to lower pricing for pretty much everything, from transportation, manufacturing, and shipping to get goods to your front doorstep. If you lower oil, it helps everybody. So guess what? OPEC is now saying that they're going to increase production by almost 500,000 barrels a day, and continuing that through from August to September. That is fantastic news. That is great news. I don't know if Trump had anything to do with that. I mean, he went over there. They had a good talk. I'm sure it had something to do with it. Good relations, something else going on. But notice who said they didn't want to agree with this. Good old Russia right there saying, no, we don't really want that, because guess what? They produce all their stuff in-house. We are trying to do that. And thus, if Saudi Arabia was able to push that out, guess what? It hurts Russia and it helps us. So, I mean, this is a win-win-win. I mean, I'm struggling with this other than I can hear like the blue hair scream, but what about my climate? Guys, the climate debacle was all fake. Right up here, guys. Tossed to shady nonprofits with reduced oversight under the guise of climate change. It's a fugazi. It's a fugazi. Blow it up. So let's get back to the silver lining. Good stuff. Bitcoin says what? So JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, what a C-nut. He's now completely did a 180 and said, guess what? Bitcoin is a good stuff. Bitcoin's the best. We're going to allow the wealthy to leverage Bitcoin. What do you mean by leverage, Ryan? It's a great question. What I mean by leverage is that let's say you have a bunch of trumped up prices of artwork, collector cars, you've got several houses, and you've got all those assets. The rich, what they do is they bundle those up. They go to JP Morgan and they say, look, I've got $1 billion in assets or $100 million in assets, whatever. You've got to have a lot. I want to borrow against it. So they take $100,000 out, they borrow against it, they slowly pay that $100,000 back. That $100,000 they got from them, that's a liability. They don't pay taxes on that. And then they pay off the loan, paying themselves back. It is a brilliant, vicious cycle that now they're basically saying, okay, now you can add Bitcoin to that. So Bitcoin is a drastically appreciating asset. So let's say Bitcoin one day is worth $1 million a coin. You've got $1 million coin. You want to borrow $10,000 against that. You borrow $10,000. Bitcoin in a year is now worth 1.2 million. You borrow now $100,000 against that Bitcoin. You pay off that other 10 grand, and now you've got $90,000 still to play with, and so on and so forth. So it allows these wealthy individuals to essentially add in an extremely appreciating asset to, in supposedly perpetuity, keep borrowing against it and paying themselves, or buy more assets and continue the cycle. Don't believe me? Look up leveraged Bitcoin or asset leveraged Bitcoin on YouTube. There are hundreds of videos talking about this. This is a legit thing. When I worked in insurance for one of the largest insurers in the world, that's what the wealthy did. That's why they had these dumb paintings that had nothing on them. They go to an appraiser, appraise that value, and then they borrow against it and use that money as walking cash. And then they actually use that money to go buy something of real value. It was a complete sham, and part of what I did was help work against that and prevent the wealthy from doing that sort of thing. But just the whole point is that that's how the game is played. And Jamie Dimon has now just pulled the I want to say pull the ripcord, just signaled the green flag and say, okay, you can now add Bitcoin to do this in potentially perpetuity. I don't know if you can or not, but it is, I mean, on paper it kind of works, but in the real world we know things don't always work that way. So anyway, just throwing that out there. Very interesting stuff. Again, you can't buy a whole Bitcoin. Buy a little something. Didn't see my last one. Go check on silver. Get you some silver now. Again, that's not financial advice, but I'd highly recommend it. Guys, this has been great. Great talking to you. Great seeing you. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the next stream. Bye, peeps.